Okay, hello guys. Welcome back to the second part of the Figma tutorial that we are in the last part. We have seen how we have created a basic calculator in Figma. And in this part today, we are going to see how we can design this using HTML and CSS. Okay. So now let's first begin. I have opened Visual Studio Code and here I have created a folder. And this folder is completely empty. Now let's begin with, let's call it HTML file. Let's call it index.html. And this is going to be my boilerplate for the HTML file. Then next, I'm going to create a CSS file called main.css. Okay, so now this is going to be the place where we're going to write all our CSS. And let's come back over here. Let's start by giving it a title, white calculator. Okay, and let's now include the CSS file. So link, and let's add the CSS file, and we are all set. Okay, so now the first thing that we will need is to set up our HTML so that we can start writing some CSS. Okay, so the first thing that we will do is refer to our calculator, and you can see that we have everything is wrapped inside main block. Okay, so center, this entire thing is going to be together, right? So I will create one outer div for holding everything. Okay, so let's do that. So we can start by, let's say, um, we can start by having a container called calculator. Okay, and then inside that, now we have to design this, right? So we can have now there are multiple ways of designing this, but I would like to have freedom in designing the display, because in future it's possible that I will design it, make it a multi-line display. So I will need a little bit of freedom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one div for the display part. Okay, and then one outer div for the entire keypad. Okay, so let's do that. So I will say display, then that will be that display itself has, if you look closely, look little bit closer, you can see inside the display. So this white outer box is the display, and inside the display you have a region where all your contents are going to be there. Okay, so we will design this uh, let's there are multiple ways of doing this also. So let's design it with another div. Okay, so let's call it display. Okay, so let's call it display element, and inside that let us add some numbers. Okay, so this is going to be our display part. Then below that I'm going to add the keypad. Okay, so let's add a div for keypad. So this is going to be the keypad, and inside that you can see I have around these all buttons are there. So we will just create one of them and then just duplicate it to create all the buttons. Okay, so you can see I have, let's start with, let's call it we will give it two classes. One is going to be button, and then another class is going to be, let's give another class, what should we call it? Okay, so I will call it button clear. Okay, so this is going to be my clear button. Okay, so you can see this. So this is my clear button. Then next is going to be these other buttons. So similarly, I'm going to create all the other buttons, and I'm just going to fast forward it. Okay. Okay. So all my keypad buttons I have created. So now let's check how it looks. Okay, so just run it with live server. I have already installed the live server plugin, and you can see this is how it looks. Okay, so let's bring it side by side, and you can see this is how it looks. It does not look anything like our calculator right now, but we will come to that point very soon. Okay, so next step is let's design our buttons. Okay, so let's first design our buttons. So let's come to the class, and so I already have a short snippet ready for these things, so I always start with this. Okay, and then let's style the buttons now. So the class for the button is uh, it is there. I have a common class that is button, so let's select that. Okay, so dot btn. Okay, and here now I have to set the size, width, and the styling of the buttons. Okay, so let's come to Figma and select any of the buttons, and you can go to inspect, and you can see what exactly what is the exact color. Okay, so what is the style that is applied. So you can see this is the style that is applied, and the width and height and the radius. Okay, so the width is uh, 50 pixels and height is 50 pixels. So let's come back, paste these codes, and also set the width to 50 pixels and height to 50 pixels. Okay, so once that is done, let's come back, and you can see I have the buttons all set ready to go. Okay, now but this does not look anything like our design, right? So let's address that now. So first of all, this is the calculator div that is having all the elements, right? So let's first bring it to the center. Now to bring it to the center, you can use any methods. Okay, but since this is a one-dimensional thing, so I am going to use Flexbox for this. Okay, so uh, first thing is I will select the body tag. Okay, so let's select body, and inside body I will say display flex. Okay, and I will also let's now center the entire thing um, to somewhere in the center. Okay, so I can do sorry, justify content center. Okay, once I do that, you can see everything comes to the center. Right now, the next thing is how should I bring the contents vertically centered. Okay, now right now it's not possible to bring everything vertically centered because you can see the div is stretching till the end. Okay, so because it is stretching till the end, even if we try to center it, it will not uh, become centered because the height is using all the space, right? So let's fix that first. Okay, so let's come over here. You can see this keypad. Now these keypads, you can come to the design, and you can see this entire thing is our keypad. Okay, so except the display part, other thing is the keypad. And looking at this, you must have understood that this is a two-dimensional alignment, right? So whenever there is such kind of a thing, the best way to handle this is using grid. Okay, so let's apply a grid to keypad. So let's come down and select keypad, and let's set display to be grid. Okay, so let's set display to be grid and save it. And as soon as I do that, nothing actually happens because we have not set uh, the grid columns and grid rows. Okay, so let's set the grid template. So for that, you just have to do grid template columns. Okay, and here you can set how many rows do you want, sorry, how many columns you want in your grid. Okay, so let's come back over here and we can see there are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I need 4 rows, right? So I can say 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, and 1 FR. Okay, so you could have used a repeat command also over here, but let's try this. Okay, and you can see now everything comes over here in a proper format, right? Next, I also need to set the uh, grid rows. Okay, grid template rows, and that is going to be, let's come back to Figma. Let us see how many rows we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rows. Okay, so we will add one more 1 FR. Okay, so we have the entire thing set up. Now one more thing we would like to do is, if we see the design, there is a space in between the each of these. Okay, so for that you can set a gap between the elements. So for that the command is gap. Okay, you can set the gap different for the column and rows, but since our gap is same, so I'm going to use this, and I have set the gap as 25 pixels in the Figma design. So I'm going to use that, and you can see this is how my design looks. Okay, so my calculator is ready. Obviously, the elements are not properly aligned because some of the elements like the clear and the plus symbol uses much more columns and rows. Okay, so once we address that, then we will have the proper design. Okay, so before that, now will be the right time to bring this to the center vertically also. Now to bring this to the center, you can do the first thing that you should do. Let me just inspect and show you what is the problem. Okay, so you can see the currently the problem is that if you look at the body, the height of the body is exactly whatever is the size of your calculator div, right? So first, to center it vertically, you first have to set the height to the maximum, right? Now to set that, I will just come to the body and set the height to be 100 viewport height. Okay, so whatever is the viewport height, that will be my height. Okay, so now if I inspect my element, you can see now it is taking the entire space. Okay, so now to align the elements vertically in a flex box, okay, you can just do align items and do center, and this will bring everything to the center. Okay, so that solves our problem for that, for bringing everything to the center. Okay, so now we are almost there, but a few more things are left. First of all, we have to make the keys proper. Okay, so to make the keys proper, we have to first uh, set the font size of the elements. Okay, so let's come back. Okay, so we have set the things properly. Now the next thing will be to bring set the size of our but text in our buttons. Okay, so let's go back to Figma and find out what is the size of the font, and you can see the size of the font is mentioned over here. Okay, so let's take that and let's come to our buttons and set these sizes. Okay, so the size, line height, and everything is mentioned, and the color is also mentioned. Okay, so let's take that, and you can see now I have somewhat appropriate, right? Now again, I have to bring the text to the center, right? So I can do, let's first find out what is the size of this. Okay, so what is the, so you can see the element spans the entire width, right? So in this case, if you want to bring the text to the center, you can do text align center. So now you can see the contents are center aligned, but it is not center aligned vertically. Okay, so for that, always remember, because this is a text element, and if you inspect it, you can see the element is, taking the entire height of it, right? So in this case, what you can do is, whenever you want to center something, the height of your container should be equal to the line height. In that case, if that is the case, then the things will be, the text will be vertically aligned. Okay, so you can see the height of the container, that is the button, is 50 pixels, whereas the line height from Figma is 33 pixels. Okay, so that is why it is not aligning center. So simple thing to do is just make this 50 pixels and save, and you can see now my button is looking perfect. Okay, so once this is done, next is to deal with this particular clear button, which is going to be a bit more bigger, where also the plus button is also a little bigger. Okay, so let's address that. And if you come over here, and now will be the best time to give names to the buttons. Okay, so I have given the buttons different names. So let's first target the clear button. Okay, so let's take that, come down over here and select it. Okay, so now to expand the width of the clear button, now you have to first decide know which to which direction, in which direction the button is going to expand. Okay, so if you come back to the Figma design, you can see the clear button is expanding, extending columns, right? So I will come over here and I will simply say grid column, and once I do that, now I have to decide how much it is going to expand, right? So basically, to understand this, you should understand that this particular line, the extreme start of the line, is numbered as 1. Then the second one here, somewhere over here, is going to be 2. Then this is going to be 3, this is going to be 4, and the last one is going to be 5. Okay, so now what you want is, you want to expand from 1 to 3. Okay, so this is what you want to expand. Okay, so for that, what you have to do is just write grid column 1/3. So once you do that, you will see what happens when I save it now. Okay, so you can see it takes the space, it is reserving the space for it, but it is not expanding. The reason is, you can see the width of the button is fixed to width of 50 pixels, right? So if we change that and make it, let's make it width of, let's say, 100%. And once we do that, now you can see the button expands further, right? So it takes up the entire space, whatever is available. Okay, so the same thing has to be done for the plus symbol also. So let's just duplicate it, and the button name is plus. Okay, so let's just confirm it. Yes, it is plus. And here, instead of row, if you look at the Figma design, it is spanning, sorry, instead of column, it is spanning here rows. Okay, so let's come back and replace column with row. And here also, now let's find out what will be the span of my row. Okay, so here you can see it will start from the start of the rows. Okay, so this is my entire grid, right? So this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, this is 5, and this is 6. So I should start from 4 till 6. Okay, so let's come over here and write this as 4/6. And let's remove this for the time being and save it, and let's see what exactly happens. And you can see it takes up the space, but it has come to this particular side. Okay, so the reason is because the clear button, we have changed the location, because the clear button has shifted. So the orientation has changed. Okay, so let's first change the height, because it should take up all the height. So let's set the height to 100%, right? So once this is done, now you can see our what do you say, the it is taking up the space, but it has come to this side. Okay, so after doing a height of 100%, you can see it takes up the entire space, right? But now the problem is the plus symbol came to the left side, where it should have been on the right side. That is because we have only given the grid row and not the grid column. Okay, so we just have to give the grid column and tell the button to stick to the right side. Okay, now how to do that? We just have to tell from where to where the element should be there. Okay, so if you count from here, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So I want it in between 4 to 5, right? So I will just say 4/5. Okay, and once I do that, now I have the button in proper place. Okay, now the next thing that I want is this should be also center aligned. Okay, so for that we just have to set the line height. Now since the line height, the height of the container is 100%, so line height cannot take the values in percentages, because if you put line height in terms of percentage, then it will take the font size, the percentage of the font size. Okay, so that is not what we want. So what we will do is we just calculate the size of this particular box, and each box is of 50 pixel size, and the spacing between them is 25 pixels, right? So this is 50 plus this 50 and plus the spacing between 25. So a line height of 125 pixels will do the job. Okay, so let's do 125 pixels, and it works. Okay, now if you want it a bit more robust, then obviously you can use a Flexbox over here and find center align it. Okay, so that is also possible. Anyway, so let's move ahead, and now we will try to style the uh, display. Okay, so now to style the display, let's copy that and let's come down over here, take the display, and the background and everything is going to be the same. So let's take the background from the button, and let's copy all these things. Let's copy everything, in fact. Okay, so let's copy everything from the buttons, and let's paste it over here, right? And in fact, I could have just added the button class to the main. Okay, so anything will do. And once that is done, the width of the uh, this thing width should be, let's try 100% first, and that works. So I have a width here now, and now I need to have a little bit of a gap between both of the display and the keypad. So I can do one thing. I can just come over here and let's just simply do margin bottom. Okay, so margin bottom of 25 pixels. If you remember, everything is spaced 25 pixels. Okay, so I have this perfectly aligned. Let's come back to Figma, and okay, so I think that is it. We have another div inside here that is called display element. So let's take that and let's give it a background color from the Figma. So this is the background color. So let's copy that and let's give it a background color. And obviously you can see it is right now it is taking up the entire space, but we don't want that. Okay, so the background color, I've given the background color. Now I want it to look something like this. Okay, so for that, I can first set the height of the rectangle. Okay, so the height of the rectangle is around 28 pixels. Okay, so let's come over here and set the height as, let's say 30 pixels will do. Okay, so let's take it as 30 pixels. And now you can see this is how it looks. Okay, so it makes it 30 pixels height. The height of the element is 30 pixels. Now I want it to be center aligned. Okay, so to bring it to the center, and now another thing that I observe is the width is also taking too much, right? So let's change the width of it. Okay, so width of, I don't want 100% width, so let's take it 90% of whatever is the width. Okay, so now it's looking better, right? So now I want this to be aligned centered, right? So for that there are multiple ways, but the simplest way will be to use display flex and justify content center and align items center. Okay, so once we do that, now everything comes to the center. Okay, now the next thing is, let's go back, and inside this I have a element, right? So first thing that I should do is set the line height to be same as the height of the container, right? So it is 30 pixels, so let's make it 30 pixels. So now everything comes to the center. Another thing that you will observe is in our Figma design, everything is towards the right. Okay, so I can do a text align, text align right, and that should bring uh, it perfectly to this particular place. Then I also need a little bit of margin. Okay, so I should have a little bit of padding to the right. Okay, so let's add a little padding of, let's say 5 pixels. And okay, so I think this is okay. And I would also like to have a padding on the left of 5 pixels. And I think that is it. So we have completed the design. The color is a little bit too light for me for the text. So I can change the color to a little darker color and save it. Okay. So I think this is the final design of our buttons, but obviously our buttons do not work right now. Okay, so we will add a little bit of hover animation to this. Okay, so let's do that next before we finish up the calculator. Okay, so the first thing that I should do is let's go to the button. So this is our button, and inside the button I should have a class uh, of, it should have a pointer icon instead of this arrow. I should have a pointer icon over here, so I can say cursor pointer, and after saving it you can see now this converts it to a pointer. Okay, once that is there, then when I click on it I should get a visual feedback that I'm clicking on it, right? So for that what I can do is I can just come down over here and select the button and add a uh, pseudo class to this. Okay, so hover, and when I hover, what style it should apply. Okay, so the only thing I would like to do is take this box shadow, okay, and come over here, and instead of just add inset to this. Okay, so inset will generate an inner shadow instead of a drop shadow. Okay, so let's try that. And when I click, you can see now, obviously it is doing it the wrong. So I have selected a wrong pseudo class. So I should have selected it as active. Okay. So when the button is active, you can see it gives you the feedback of as if it is getting clicked. Okay. So that is it for our CSS. So the visual part of our calculator is done. And in the next video, we will try to make this particular calculator working. Okay. Okay. So see you in the next part where we will actually design the, actually make this calculator working. Okay. Have a good day.